What's up, guys? I just got off work, but I just wanted to intro my buddy that I got to do a podcast with. Name's Jennings. He is a Marine. He's got some crazy stories. He's going to talk to us about how he drowned 12 times and how we can push past anything that we're going through. So, hope you guys enjoy. You ready?
Tip of the tongue, teeth, and the lips. Am I ready?
Yeah.
Should I turn more?
You can. That way we're just like talking.
Yeah.
All right. So you just got out of the Marines on Thursday, right?
Thursday, the 14th.
The 14th. And so when you sign up for the Marines, is it typically like 5 years or there's different plans?
So usually when you enlist in the Marine Corps or any branch of the military, if you're going active duty, it's 4 years. Mm. When you sign something that requires a little bit more training, when you for the job you sign up for, they usually tack on an extra year. So I got tricked into doing a recon contract. So for those who don't know what that is, a Marine reconnaissance man is someone who, in title, does a lot of their main job is reconnaissance, but they're more on the they're not special forces. They do have branches, and they basically have units, Marine Recon units that are special forces, but in general, they're just amphibious recon Marines, and it's really hard.
Amphibious, like in water?
In water and on land is their main thing.
So you go into wherever you're going through the water?
That's their, they do other platforms of entry, but that's their main focus, and that's when you go through the recon course.
Got it.
It's a lot of amphibious training, which I am not good at at all. I got super tricked into it.
So we'll probably go into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I got super tricked into it. Super tricked.
So what was that like? Well, first of all, what made you want to be a Marine?
So what made me Marine? So growing up, I've always had interest in the military. I've been told I'm military-esque, or whatever. Grew up hunting, fishing, typical Texas kid. I was actually in the first year of internship at the Harvest, now Church 1132.
Hold on.
What's up?
There we go. Low cut.
Keep going?
That'll be fine. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I did first year of internship at Church 1132. I'm assuming a lot of the listeners know about internship.
Yeah, probably. And people that don't know, I've already explained it on multiple podcasts.
Okay,
what internship is.
All right, cool. So I did first year, and I was actually on track to do second year. I had my application. I was about to go on the second year trip and everything. Yeah. But when I was in Scotland, over the summer before, in between first year and second year, so that summer, I was in Scotland, and we were actually there together. Yeah, and I just had kind of a hunch of maybe doing second year wasn't what I was supposed to be doing, and there was a lot of stuff ISIS was doing right before we left. ISIS was doing a lot of things, killing Christians and that kind of thing. Yeah. And so while we were in Scotland, I kept getting asked, or I kept thinking I am called to do something about this. I understand I'm in ministry, but maybe my part of ministry is actually physically doing something about it. Yeah. Because I obviously I prayed for it or whatever about God help ISIS not kill all these Christians, but it's at some point somebody is gonna have to be the one that makes them stop killing the Christians. So no, but so what happened was
you're saying it so nicely, instead of kill ISIS, you're we gotta make them stop doing what they're doing.
So the funny thing is that growing up, my brother was in the Air Force for 10 years. He deployed to, I was in 5th grade on his first deployment, so that was 2004 when stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan was really bad. And he would tell me stories about stuff, and he was actually deployed with Marines because he was security forces, so he was on the ground at air bases, and he would do security for the air bases, and there was a lot of Marines there. Yeah. And he would tell me stories about Marines, and he's always telling me the Marines are the most BA out of everybody he's served with or whatever. But so I was actually back in Scotland, or from Scotland in America, And I was thinking, like, hey, maybe I should go back, or maybe I should, like, join the military. And then...
So before you went to Scotland, you weren't really thinking, or it was a thought, but it wasn't like a...
Well, so what actually goes way back to actually an internship for, we were doing this thing, an internship, and the leader called up random people in front of all the interns during, like, we were supposed to do pre-service, like, something for pre-service, but he was like, no, we're going to send some people up, and all the interns are just going to speak words over them, and I got chosen. I was like one of 4 people.
Yeah.
And actually Spencer Smiley, back when she was Spencer Smiley, before Spencer and Tony, actually like said, I feel like God's awakening old dreams and he's taking you on a different path and like all this other stuff. Basically like a lot of stuff that I still remember.
Yeah.
And I thought that meant like with sports because I was like heavily involved with football. I was like, yes, here I come. And I was like playing on a semi-professional rugby team at the time. And so I was like, all right, yeah, sports, blah, blah. But then in Scotland, I kept hearing that in my head, and it was probably for the military. So then we were actually back in the States. It was either the day of or the next day. I was driving down Highway 75 in Richardson, like north of Dallas.
Yeah.
And I saw a sign that says, it's not our job to judge, it's our job to arrange the meeting with the one who does, United States Marines. And I was like, there it is. And so that day I
That's pretty intense.
Yeah, that day I walked in through the recruiting office because instant and willing obedience, to God's plan, which then in the Marine Corps, the first thing you learn is instant willingness, obedience to orders. So it was like the same thing. So I was like, all right, nailed it. But no, I walked in the recruiting office and said, hey, I want to join the Marine Corps and I want to be in the infantry. And they were like, thought I was crazy because that usually doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And they were like, apparently they have a hard time. They actually have to go out and get people, not people just come in that are actually qualified to join. Usually the people that come in, they told me, are people like who are homeless or they're like not qualified or they haven't graduated high school. Way out. Yeah. But they were like, oh, you have like everything's good with you. I'm like, yeah. So anyways, I'm ready to go. And then so I left like 2 months later and just sent it.
So what was like when you got into boot camp? Was it, or I don't even know if that's what you call it, when you got into training?
They call it recruit training.
Okay, so when you got
boot camp, recruit training, same thing.
So when you got to that, was it what you thought it was going to be? Was it as easy as you thought it was going to be, or as hard as you thought it'd be?
So I tell people this, and it blows their mind. Even when I was in boot camp, it blew people's mind. I literally knew nothing.
Yeah.
I literally didn't know what to expect. I literally joined the recruiting office, didn't look up anything.
You just went in.
I just sent it. Like,
here we go.
Yeah, and people were telling, like, while I was on the bus on the way to the airport to boot camp, and everybody was like, do you know this yet? And I was like, I know nothing. I'll just learn when I get there.
That was fellow Marines that you were talking to?
Recruits, that on the way to boot camp.
Before they become Marines.
Yeah, so they were, like, saying all this stuff, and the only thing I did ahead of time was shave my head, because my recruiter was like, yeah, you should just shave your head before, because when you get there, they're going to shave your head, and it's going to suck, and you're going to bleed and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So that was the only thing I did ahead of time was I shaved my head. But other than that, I literally didn't know anything. That's hence why I got tricked into the contract. So, like, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be a sniper eventually. Yeah. And I knew that, like, if you had to go to the infantry and then, like, try out to be a sniper or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, well, we have this, like, recon contract. And I was like, when you enlist, it's called, you go to a DEP, delayed entry program. Yeah. And so what happens is, like, basically you're supposed to, like, meet, like, twice a week with recruiters, and all the pulleys is what we're called. Like, people waiting to go to boot camp are called pulleys. And you're supposed to, like, do, like, physical training and, like, work out, because they want to make sure you're, like, in shape to go, because you have to meet the standards. Yeah. And I was the most in shape one there, and I was like, I don't really need to be here. Like, this is kind of like a waste of my time, because I was literally playing on a professional rugby club at the time. So I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I'm not trying to, like, be cocky, but I was, like, super into it. I was, like, super nervous when I showed up to the first one, and I was like, there's a lot of weak people here. So, but everybody always talked about, like, going recon, but I didn't know what that meant. So I was like, I'm just going to
do it.
I'm just going to do my own thing. And then they came to me and they're like, hey, you're, like, highly qualified in this, like, a recon contract. It's like, these are, like, a lot of people really want this, and, like, everybody heard about it, like, oh, you got offered the recon contract, so cool. But the only thing he asked me is I was about to sign the dotted line, because he told me, he was like, you have to go through recon to be a sniper, which was a lie. You don't. But I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, yeah. And he was like, right before I signed the line, he was like, wait, can you swim? I was like, yeah. He's like, you'll be good. He didn't tell me that it was like, it's not just swimming. Like, it's some, like, super intense stuff. But, yeah, for recruit training, though, like, I didn't, like, know anything. I just...
Yeah. So what was the first part of you that they broke off of you? Like, whether that was pride or whether that was arrogance. Not saying you had any of those, but maybe you did.
Yeah,
I mean, you were in there like, there's a lot of weak people.
Like when they actually ship off to recruit training, I think it was. I honestly like it wasn't really that hard for me because like I was in shape and stuff, and I was disciplined, and I understood that like a lot of recruit training is somewhat of a game, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, not saying it's a game, but it's like I'm going in expecting to be broken. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, I didn't find it that physically hard.
Was there a lot of people that quit?
A lot of people tried to quit. And then when you, like, quit, it takes longer for you to quit and get, administratively separated than it does for you to just finish. So there's dudes there that did try to quit. And I would see them as I was graduated boot camp, and they're still there. So they're done. Or like people fake injuries.
They might as well have just got through it.
Yeah, so then dudes will sometimes fake injuries too, which gets them in like actual trouble. Like they get like in legal trouble because it's like malingering.
Yeah.
They get like stuff taken away. And then some people actually get hurt or actually get sick, because the thing is in recruit training you literally can't miss more than like 2 days. Yeah. Before you get held back, and then you have to start whatever phase you're in over again, because it's split up into 3 phases. So even if like you're just sick and you can't train for 2 days, then you got to start the whole phase over.
So you just got to go even if you're sick.
Pretty much. Yeah. And like we all were sick at some point, because you got dudes coming in from all over the country, and you're getting all these shots, a lot of shots, and all this stuff, and you're like constantly sick. I think the thing that, like, to answer your question, I don't really know what broke first, because I kind of went in expecting it to suck. Yeah. I think it's more of some stuff just isn't as hard as you think it's going to be, but it sucks more than what you expect, if that makes sense.
Like what?
Just because, like, in Marine Corps is the only boot camp, because I was there through Christmas. Yeah. And that kind of sucked. And you don't know what day it is in boot camp. Like, you don't know the day of the week, day of the month. Really? You only know when it's Sunday, because that's the day you go to church. And then, because they let you go to church, and that's the only time you get, like, a break from the drill instructors. And they pretty much force you to go to church.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyways, you don't know what day it is, you don't know what time it is. So, I think the only time I knew it was Christmas is when I was at the chow hall. And, like, we were getting, like, drill instructors are there with you the entire time. By the way, if I forget to say something, this happened 5 years ago, so I've done a lot of stuff since then. So I'm just remembering this as I go. I just remember at the drill instructors there and yell at you and stuff. And I just remember there was only one of the drill instructors there on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and I remember we were all like, "What's going on? Why is there only one drill instructor instead of all of them?" Yeah. And he was being he was still young and stuff. It was pretty a lot more chill, because I left for boot camp on December 14th, so we were still early, this is still phase 1. And then I remember going to the chow hall, and the drill instructors are usually there, and they're yelling at you even at the chow hall, while you're getting in and out or whatever. And then I just remember it just being really quiet, and then I gave my tray to where the dishwasher people are, and she whispered to me, she was like, "Merry Christmas," and I was like, "Oh, it's Christmas." And then we went to a Christmas Eve. That's insane, dude. Then we went to a Christmas Eve service. They took us to a Christmas Eve service after that.
How did you lose track of days?
You just don't know they don't tell you what day. They don't wake up and say, "Hey, it's Monday the 19th."
But wouldn't you think once you go to church, the next day you wake up, you're like, "Oh, it's Monday." Or is it because y'all schedule was so jacked up?
It's all jacked up. So the boot camp is the only place in the Marine Corps that you are you are allotted 8 hours of sleep. You might not get it because sometimes you have tasks that magically need to get done before the next morning. But you're they put you to sleep. Yeah. And then there's fire watch and things like that all night. But that's the best as far as like time slots go, it's like the best you're gonna get in the Marine Corps for sleep.
But is it still not good?
No, because for me, I'm a light sleeper.
Yeah.
Like super light, so even when like dudes are like doing fire watch and like walking around, I can hear them walking around, or
and you just can't pass out.
Yeah, and then drill instructors are always yelling at somebody up front or whatever, and then then there's like fire watch, and there's stuff that you need to get done before the next morning, like putting labels on this, labels on that, so you have to do it like in secret at night, like in the dark, and because you're not allowed to, like when you're told to go to sleep, like you're supposed to be sleeping, so if they catch you doing something else. Even if it's like productive, it's like not what you're supposed to be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
that's insane.
Yeah.
So what in recruit training? What was the most difficult part? Whether that was mentally or physically, specifically in recruit training.
So honestly, this can sound really dumb, but is it still good?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So on the West Coast, so you have boot camps to different places. You have the East Coast, Bear Island, West Coast, San Diego. In San Diego, boot camp is literally up against the airport, the San Diego airport.
Yeah.
So then, like, every single day, you're seeing these people fly in and out, and, like, then drill instructors will kind of get that into your head. They'll be like, look, that's a family going home.
So they mess with you mentally.
Oh, yeah. They, like, totally get into
So that was the hardest part?
That was a part that stuck out.
I just want to go home for a little bit, bro.
Yeah, like that stuck out a lot because then, like, you'll be standing there and we're, like, doing some training event, but, like, you're always staying at attention.
Yeah.
There's some, other recruit that's staying at attention in front of you, and you just see him go like this. Take just a quick peek at the plane.
Yeah. And
then a drill instructor sees it. And that guy, I just remember this one time, this drill instructor came up to this kid right in front of me. He was like, hey, man, you see that plane? And it was, like, so weird because usually drill instructors are always, like, on.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, man, you see that plane? And the recruit just goes, like, yes, sir. And he was like, oh, I bet you want to go on that plane. Don't worry, you'll be there soon. And then he said something else, and they said back and forth, and then he just, like, lost it on him, and then, like, took him to go, like, tase him, and it was like, you think you're getting out of here? Hell no.
Like,
my God. Yeah, so it was like...
What a jerk.
Yeah.
It's like just built up his hope, and it was like, no.
Yeah, so there's actually, like, a lot of, like, funny things that happen, but it's only funny, like, in boot camp. It's, like, not funny outside of boot camp.
Yeah. You just kind of had to be there.
Yeah. There's like a saying about the Marine Corps boot camp, it's the best 13 weeks that you never want to do again. That's a saying.
That's awesome. So mentally that was the hardest part. I'm guessing just because like, you probably just miss your bed and things like that, right? Or did you miss like not having to like be at attention all the time?
Yeah, because you don't actually like talk from what this is me recalling. You don't have a normal conversation with anybody. Like, not with the drill instructor, not with the fellow recruit, like, especially the drill instructors around. It's not until, like, the last, like, week, like, when you're about to graduate, is when you stop talking you literally talk in third person. And you don't have a name, you're just recruit. Like, and you talk about other recruits in the third person, and then you talk about yourself in third person, the way you talk to drill instructors about different recruits in third person.
I feel like that gets real confusing real quick.
Oh, yeah. And there's, like, proper ways you have to talk to a drill instructor. You can't just, like, go up to a drill instructor and start talking. Like, first off, you're always, like, pretty much always yelling, like, at the top of your lungs. And then you're always at attention. And then you have to, like, request to speak to a drill instructor. Yeah. And then once you request to speak to them, you can't just ask a question. You have to request to ask a question. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like an endless...
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, And that's why, like, when people get out, when dudes graduate, or recruits graduate boot camp, and become Marines, and they go home, they're all, like, weird. Because they don't know what to do. They're
like socially awkward.
Yeah, it's like, so, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was like, what do I do with my hands? Like, for, like, the last, if I wasn't getting hazed, like, for the last, like, 13 weeks, they were like this or like this, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what to do with my hands.
Golly.
Yeah.
What about, once you got into recon? Because that's the more high-level training.
Yeah, so,
so tell us a little bit about that.
So first, you go to every Marine after boot camp goes to MCT or SOI, MCT Marine Combat Training or School of Infantry. Mm-hmm. So MCT is for everybody who's like not a grunt, who's not an infantryman. Mm-hmm. It's like about a month long. Everybody in the Marine Corps learns how to do combat to some level. Yeah. And then if you're an infantry Marine, you go to a School of Infantry. So I went to School of Infantry, and then halfway through, since I was a recon contract, they pulled me out, and I went to recon. I was there for quite a while. I got selected on like the first. So you go to like a pickup and you have to try to get like selected or whatever. It's like a big tryout, and it's not just privates. Like I was a private. It's also like people who like lap move from like other MOSs or other parts of the infantry. So there's like a lot of like higher ranking people there too, and you're like all competing for. I think it was like 50 or 60 spots in the class.
Dang.
And I didn't think I was gonna get selected, and then I did. And then like you go through it's like kind of like split up into 2 courses. You go through like the first course is like straight up you just getting your ish pushed in the entire time.
Yeah.
Like it's just absolutely miserable. But then when you're off work, you're kind of off work.
Yeah.
And then, but then like the next school is, or the next like phase of the school, I guess, is the actual like where you're learning a lot more and like training a lot more. If that makes sense. Like it's still hard, but they don't drop as many. They basically made this course to like weed everybody out. In
the beginning.
Yeah, it's called the primer course, and so I was in the primer course, and basically you do like the first half of the day before lunch, it's all land PT. And then
what's PT?
Physical training.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon you go to the pool, and that was my weak point. It was the pool. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was like, man, I don't want to do anything. When I see like videos of people or like movies when they're like coming out of the beach with their fins and all that, I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. And then that was what I was training for. So like But you didn't know that was. Yeah, I didn't know that's what I was going. I like literally didn't know what recon was until like halfway through boot camp, and they were like, all right, who has a recon contract? Because they had to like point us out or something, and they're like, oh, you guys are gonna drown, like blah blah, like talking crap in boot camp to us. And because I had no idea, I still had no idea even in boot camp what I was getting into. So and then but then like in the primer course, so I got selected, and I was like, crap. So then I got selected, and yeah, it was like pretty miserable. Like I was through like 12 training days, and every single day I was getting pulled out of the pool because there's like a part where you go through like what they call a deep end card. It's like you're treading in the water, and like you have to do all this stuff like your hands out of the water, so you're only using your legs, like all these different things. You're passing bricks around, like literally like these like rubber bricks that are like 10 or 15 pounds or something. You have to like hold it out of the water.
While treading? Yeah,
while treading water, and I can't do that. I literally can't even. I can swim.
Just sink?
Yeah, I can tread water with my arms.
Yeah.
And that's why the other swimming stuff I was okay with.
Yeah.
Like I was getting through all the other swimming stuff, even like the finning I was okay with. But it was when it was like treading with just my legs.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it, but I wasn't quitting, and I was so like a lot of people quit. So it's literally the same as like buds, like for Navy SEAL training.
Yeah.
You like go and ring a bell, but for us we'd go hang up our rope because we're what's called ropers, because we get like this rope and we have like this like rope around us, and that's how you know that you're like one of those people.
Yeah.
Or one of those Marines. But I never quit. I didn't even. If you swim to the side of the pool and touch the side of the pool at all, it's a non-verbal DOR, which is drop on request, and then that's it. You're done. You don't even get the chance to go back. But I wouldn't do that. I would literally just sink, and then I'd black out, and then they'd pull me out because I didn't want to quit. So, but I also didn't want to be in the course, and I was like, then they'd pull me out, and then they would like take my oxygen, all this stuff, and then when my oxygen, like my blood oxygen level or something was good enough,
leveled out, they threw you back in.
They said if you can go back in, but if you don't go back in, you will most likely get dropped. I'd be like, all right. So then I just got back in, and at the end of each training day, I would have to sign like this piece of paper, because there's like throughout the Marine Corps, if you do anything that's like a safety violation, you sign what's called the page 11. A page 11 is just like a formal like document in the Marine Corps that's like basically acknowledging that you did something. It can be good or it can be bad or it can be like nothing. Like I had to sign page 11s for my tattoos when they
acknowledging that you got your tattoos.
Yeah, when they changed the tattoo policy laws and saying like you have these tattoos, sign this page 11. Like, okay, cool. But so I'd have to sign a page 11 every single day. It was like a negative counseling, because when you get pulled out of the water, I guess you're considered a safety violator, because you take the attention, because they have to have so many safety swimmers for so many people in the course, and I would take too many attentions of the safety swimmers getting pulled out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it was just saying, acknowledging it was like a negative counseling, and usually you get 2 or 3 of them and they drop you.
Yeah.
I signed one for every single day to training day 12, and on training day 11, I got pulled out twice, so I had to sign 2. And they didn't drop me for some reason.
Yeah.
And on that day when I signed 2 of them, the chief instructor, he was like, "Hey Jennings, like, we know you struggle in the pool, man." And he's just being real with me because they're not like drill instructor-esque in this course. They're more. I mean, they're still hard on you and they still yell at you, but
at that point they're probably like, "Dude, you keep trying, but you keep drowning."
Yeah, well, like the course it's just different. Like because they're all recon Marines, they're not drill instructors. So it's like when you're in School of Infantry, you have combat instructors and they yell at you, but in a different way and about different stuff. But they're more real with you. They're not drill instructors. Drill instructors are always on. They're literally like a machine.
Yeah.
And then combat instructors are different, and they tell you like how they transition you into like Fleet Marine Corps, and then at this course, because they're all like recon Marines, they're just like a lot more chill, but they're like hard on you about the physical stuff.
They're hard on you, but they got personality.
Yeah. They're like hard on you, and they'll like, do what they gotta do to train you and weed you out. But he was just like, "Hey man, like look," he literally said it just like this. "Hey man, we all like you," and they were all like in the office like, "Yeah, like we like you. Like you put on land, you're one of the best land." Like on land, you stick out, like you're one of the top performers on land.
Yeah. And
he's like, "And you're not quitting, and we'll do anything to get you through." And I was like, honestly, I thought you would have dropped me by now. So then the next day, on training day 12, I waited to the end of the day before I quit. So I went and hung up my rope, and they were all like, "Really?" And I was like, I got tricked into this. I'm 12 days in, and I was also, before I even picked up, I was in what's called Marines Waiting Recon training.
Yeah.
And we were getting hazed all the time, but most of it was on land, so I was going through that easily to get me to the point where I was getting to the tryout for selection, and then I got selected. So I was like way farther than I ever thought I would make it anyways. So I was literally like every day, and then I was starting to get...
And it's probably like, if by day 12, I'm still sinking, dog, like...
Well,
I'm just not getting it.
Yeah, and it was getting progressively harder. Like on day 1, I was struggling, and then day 2, it was harder because then you start adding more clothing, you start adding more weights, you start doing extra stuff that becomes longer. So like it was getting harder, and I was probably worse because then I was getting what they call, like water phobia, and it was like
it just would your body would naturally be like.
Well, so like I would like wake up in my sleep thinking I was drowning. And like stuff like that. Jeez. And I didn't know at the time. I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm just having a bad dream." But then it went on for like a long time because like.
It's almost like PTSD.
Yeah, I guess it, like non-combat related PTSD, but I didn't know. Like I was literally like losing weight. I lost like a lot of weight. I couldn't eat, and I was like constantly like on edge. And then anytime I smelled the chlorine, my heart would start to like race.
What the
heck? So then I didn't know that's like. What they told me, like, I was, like, afterwards when I found out that, like, water phobia was, like, a thing. Because even in the shower, like, sometimes if I turn on the shower and I, like, it hit me first when I was expecting it, I would, like, not, like, really freak out, but just, like, a little bit. I'd be like, all right, well there's water. And so, yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah, it was, like, pretty intense.
That's insane.
So I was doing all that, and that started, like, week 1. And these are 12 training days, so it's, like, the weekdays, not the weekends. And they made me go to the pool with dudes who were good in the class on the weekends. So
you were always at the pool?
Yeah, I was like, it was probably like 20, 12, like about 18 to 20 days straight of me like at the pool, like practicing or training or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they would literally
half of those days you were drowning.
12 of us. Yeah.
No wonder your body is like water.
Yeah, I'm pretty over that now. And so
that's good, dude. That's good.
I think I am.
I haven't showered in 3 days, but I'm over it.
I haven't showered since 2015. But I'm pretty over it. Just kidding. Yeah, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
I think I definitely pushed myself, obviously, farther than. Considering at the beginning of each day, I woke up knowing what I was about to go do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like, it was weird though because so you do like the deep end, you do all these different stuff. You learn how to like rescues and stuff like that. You learn how to do stuff in the water like finning and stuff like that. And then you do that treading card, like I said.
Yeah.
And then after that, you do what's called water aerobics, and everybody hated it, but I liked it. because I knew that I made it through the deep end guard. But it was the worst part, like, for everybody else.
But you're just like, for you, it was like the finish line.
Yeah, because, like, you're on each side of the pool. It's like the 15-meter pool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or we were going on the 25-meter side, I believe. But, like, half the class on one side, half class on the other. And you're getting, like trained or hazed, whatever, like, on the side of the pool, like, on the land.
Yeah.
And then they had, like, all these different, like, swimming techniques. Some of them were, like, absolutely dumb. Like, one of them was hands across America. And so everybody holds hands and use only your feet to get across. So then, like, people, like, pulling you under, but you have to, like, get across.
Oh, because they're trying to stay up?
Yeah. So, like, you're pushing each other under. And I'm, like...
Jeez.
And then some of them was, like, tugboat. Like, your feet is out of the water, and you're swimming like this. So they're, like, challenging, and then you get right back out, and you're doing push-ups, butterfly kicks, like... You're constantly doing this stuff. Sometimes you're in full we were usually in full camis from what I can remember. So like head to toe with your uniform on or whatever. And but I was glad to get to that point because I was like, not only do I get breaks of being out of the water, but I made it past the deep end guard. Yeah. All I got to do is swim now. Yeah, get tired.
I can do that.
And I was slow, so I was always the last one. But I was like, because I was literally just fast enough in these swim times to like meet their requirements of like the tests. Yeah. So, but I was always the last one. Like if something required like you had to do it under 28 minutes. Like one of them was like I can't remember times. So if there's like former Marines listening, I don't remember the times and like the distances these were for. But I do know that like if something was like a 1K or 5K fin, like 5 kilometer finning, and it was supposed to be done in 30 minutes, I literally would come in like 29:58. Not exaggerating. They'd be like, "Oh, 2 seconds left." They used to say, "Oh, Jennings classic made it with 2 seconds left." It's fair.
You're like, "Yeah, man."
Yeah, I made it.
So,
are you sure I made it?
You don't want to drop me yet? Okay.
I can say I have one more lap left.
So what was just kind of to close it out? What was probably the best thing that you learned out of like everything from you serving and all that stuff? Like, what was one of the best lessons that you learned, or the most that you took out of it? Out of all of it.
The whole 5 years?
Yeah.
Dang, we only just talked about the first like
I know.
8 months. Oh man, I think the best thing I got out of it was be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah. Wait, that took it to a literal sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because even so, then I've done quite a bit of stuff in the Marine Corps beyond that.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Oh yeah, you've done a lot.
Yeah. So, that's probably what took me through the rest of everything I've done, and like what's helped me. Not trying to brag, but like succeed in pretty much everything I've done besides Recon. And be comfortable, be uncomfortable is probably the biggest one, and then embrace the suck and suffer in silence.
Yeah. What does that mean, suffer in silence?
Everybody goes through stuff, and when I was in sniper school, one of the biggest. So I've been in any course related to even involved anything sniper related I've done. It's always like a common theme, like suffer in silence. Like, but how it transfers to life is like we all go through stuff.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like you're going through something, I'm going through something, but I'm not gonna like complain all the time about what I'm going through. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's difference between like voice not getting help. But in a literal sense, we like weren't allowed to like wince in pain or.
Oh really?
Like if we were in the plank for a long time, there was none of they call it sex noises.
Yeah.
Like there's none of that suffer in silence. There's no crying. There was no like complaining at each other. There was no like cheering each other on. It was more like demanding stuff of each other, that kind of thing.
Why is that? Why aren't you allowed to cheer? Like you can't be like, "Hey, let's go, bro! You got it."
I think, well, in like boot camp, that was like the biggest thing. Is I remember not being allowed to cheer each other on. They always made it demanding of you. I don't know. I'm not a drill instructor. I don't know. And when I was like in, I remember being in pre-scout sniper school, and I remember we used to like kind of cheer each other on, and they weren't necessarily against it, but they were just more like, hey, like you're going through it, period, and you're all going through it. So quit being the weak one and pick yourself up and like be better for the team.
Got
you know what I mean?
it. Like they're all depending on you.
Yeah, everybody's depending on each other, and especially like when you're training to be part of a 2 to 6 man team away from everybody else. Like if what we're doing on the mission is hard, but in real life, like when it comes down to it, like there's no one there to help you.
Yeah.
So it's either you gotta get through it, otherwise you're gonna die. So it's like you either suffer in silence and get through it, or you're gonna die.
Well, that's intense. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean,
dang, dude, that's awesome. So those are the two main things that you learned out of it. What would be, if you could say something to anybody that's like listening, if they want to join the Marines, or even if they don't want to join the Marines, what would be like a golden nugget that you would give them?
Ooh, you hit me with these tough ones. Like you mean like advice or like
yeah.
Nothing is as hard as you think it's gonna be. And I want to say a lot of things, so probably not all appropriate.
It's okay.
Suck it up. And your first 2 years in, you're not special. We've all been through the same thing.
Yeah.
So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
That's coming from a man that drowned 12 times. So, so if you think it's tough, it's probably not that tough.
Yeah. So
that's what's up, bro. Well, that's it, man.
All right, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.